Okay, so welcome everybody. It's great to see you here. Magdalena, thank you so much for joining us. It's so exciting to have you back. It's been already 2 years since we first
Oh,
had the lecture series with you and music appreciation. So really wonderful. And I am grateful you are here to join us and prepare for the upcoming concerts with Rachel Kudo, who was actually one of our artists at the very, very early stages when we just started Grand Piano Series back in Year on Pianos Naples. She was one of the artists who joined us in 2016. So it's exciting to have her back. And she's bringing a lovely program. And Magdalena, by the way, thank you so much for jumping on the change very quickly.
my
So,
pleasure.
yes, Rachel just announced that she will play Carnival by Schumann, which is a phenomenal, absolutely incredible work. And we're very excited. And the concerts are on January 9, 11 with Grand Piano Series. And then she will be joining Camerata of Naples on January 15th at the Moorings Presbyterian Church. And this is the first of our collaborations where we share one of our guest artists with a local organization. So we're excited about that as well. So without further ado, Magdalena, thank you so much. And please tell us what's to be expected to hear next week.
Thank you so much, Milana, and thank you for having me back. It warmed my heart to receive your email, and I was truly looking forward to seeing the familiar faces. And I want to thank you now that I have you here face to face. I wanted to thank you for all your lovely notes that you were so kind to send me after we've completed our series of lectures. It really was kind of life-saving, I should really say, during the lockdown and the horrible time of the pandemic, to have this routine and meet with you and be able to, learn together and be enlightened together. So I'm really grateful for that, and seeing your faces really just makes my heart full. And congratulations to Milana for everything that you're doing. Come pandemic, come hurricanes, all kinds of disasters, the edification of our minds and, confirmation of our common humanity continues. So, and I think that's just really, really so important for our spirits. So thank you for that. Oh, my scarf is getting undone. So let's start right off with the program that Rachel Kudo is presenting. It's a really fascinating program, which will be basically taking you through the history of dance, at least the dance that existed during the time that the keyboard instruments became prevalent. So I will start with the music of Johann Sebastian Bach, but in order to prepare grounds for the dance suites of Bach, I have to go back just a little bit earlier to the court of Louis XIV, the Roi Soleil, the Sun King, who essentially invented what we know today as ballet in his court. He was a very avid dancer himself, and his court composer was Jean-Baptiste Lully, who was actually an Italian-born composer, became a French citizen, who also adored dance to the point where once he stabbed his foot with a pole with which he was conducting his orchestra, the orchestra of the Sun King, and gangrene set in his foot. And because he was such a prominent dancer and such a fan of dance, he refused to have his foot amputated, and basically the gangrene killed him. So you see the kind of importance that the dance had to people at the time. His pupil, Thomas de la Selle, was actually a dance master in Lüneburg, Germany, where Bach was a student at the Ritter Academy. The academy was sort of a center of a French culture. So Bach, despite his very modest upbringing and not certainly not a comfortable financial situation, he was able to learn together with those students and became familiar with not only the French language but the French plays and most importantly French music. So I would like to share my screen for a moment to show you what this French music looked like at the time. And the video that I want to show you is actually by Jean-Baptiste Lully, the court composer of King Louis XIV. This is what Louis XIV would have been dressed like, and he loved dancing in front of his court. There are records of multiple dozens and upon dozens of dance parties at his court, for which anybody who was invited and who wanted to be re-invited had to learn a new choreography. So people were hiring dance masters for their homes in order to learn the latest choreography and memorize it so that they could be re-invited. The social status really depended on one's ability to dance. And so here's just a quick excerpt of Entrée d'Apollon of Jean-Baptiste Lully with the original choreography. I will stop right here. So as you see, it doesn't quite look as modern ballet yet, but it was truly, the cradle of what we know today as ballet. The movements were incredibly subtle. It was not just the feet that worked. As you saw, the arms of the dancer were always also very much under control, and the ability to, to bow to only a certain extent or to lift your gaze only just enough was incredibly important. So Bach was familiar with French dance, French music, and French dance was frequently performed at the courts in the cities where Bach lived. And I'm going to quote from a book by Meredith Little called The Music and Dance of J.S. Bach. She writes, many German courts and cities imported culture from France and Italy as part of peacetime cultural competition, striving to build brilliant, elegant centers of civility which could outshine those of their neighbors. So kind of the soft power of dance was really tremendous. As I mentioned, dancing masters gave daily lessons to aristocrats who memorized the new choreographies, and also held weekly balls at their studios so that people could actually practice those new steps. And back to Meredith Little for a little moment. The ideals of the French style were inspiring. They included kindness, sweetness, goodness, integrity, decency, majesty, as well as nonchalance. And it was argued that the graceful movements are not only morally uplifting and lead to noble actions, but are in agreement with philosophy, mathematics, and theology. And so this is sort of the background upon which Bach is building his dance suites. So in 1722, which is the same year as he started writing the Well-Tempered Clavier, his collection of preludes and fugues, Bach is setting out to write the so-called French suites. They were only given the name French later, reportedly having been written in the French style. It's not really 100% true because there are a lot of Italian influences in the music, but they will forever now be known as the French suites. And so the suites before Bach's time, during Lully's time, for example, they were just collections of dances in the same key, and one could pick and choose whatever one wanted to perform. By the time Bach is writing in 1722, the order of suite dances had been established by a German composer, Johann Jakob Froberger, and this way, each suite will have these 4 obligatory dances, being Allemande, Courante, Sarabande, and Gigue. And there will be, some additional dances as we go along, but these 4 are kind of the bread and butter of the suite. So I don't think one can really speak about Bach without touching upon Glenn Gould. So let me just share with you the beginning of the performance of this French suite by Glenn Gould. You're going to hear the Allemande, a fragment of the Allemande. It's true that by the time Bach is writing the Allemande, it is any choreographies that may be relevant to Allemande were no longer in existence. So Allemande in this case is treated more as a prelude, kind of a warm-up for the suite. So what you just heard was the first part of a binary form, which goes A, B, B. So what you can expect next is to hear the A material one more time. See if Rachel decides to ornament it. She's a winner of the Bach competition, and the performance practice during Bach's time was certainly to ornament and embellish the second iteration of each portion of the piece. So each time you hear a dance movement, you're going to hear A, B, B. That was the Allemande. We're going to move to the next, the obligatory dance, the Courante. Courante really means in French, running. This is not really French. It's an Italian style, corrente, and it's quite fast, virtuosic, full of sequences and life. If you are maybe thinking of a reference to other Italian music of the time, you can perhaps think of the music of Vivaldi. It's very close in expression. And now the A part repeats. What's really very, very cool about Courante is that you usually count it in 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. But there are moments in the piece, they're technically called hemiolas, where all of a sudden the beat switches from 1, 2, 3, 1 to 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And it just becomes a really kind of a fun, very jazzy game of catching your spot in the piece. Let me play the second iteration of the A material, and I'm going to sort of conduct with my hands, so maybe you'll be able to follow the rhythmic complexity of this courante. Yes, there are these very funky moments in the piece. So it's important not to play it too fast so that the audience can actually process what's going on. So again, in Rachel's recital, I really encourage you to see how she deals with the repetition of the material, and is she going to do things slightly differently. Then we move to the most virtuosic dance of the suite, and my personal favorite, which is the sarabande. Sarabande actually has its origin in the music of South America. It was brought to Europe by Spanish priests, missionaries, and it originally actually was involved castanets and tambourines. It was very kind of a lively, sensuous dance, I should say. It was actually banned in some courts for being just a little too spicy. So I have here a different interpretation by a harpsichordist, because we must remember that this music was not written for the modern piano as we know it today. It was written for the harpsichord. So here is a performance that I recently found on YouTube and really, really enjoy. The sarabande would have been danced by a solo dancer as opposed to couples, and it involved a great, virtuosity of the steps. There were many turns involved. The wrists and the fingers were also very involved in extremely complex and sophisticated movements. So it was not for everybody. The sarabande would have been only danced by the virtuoso, the best dancer in court. Here we go. And now. We have the repeat of the A material. So here you witness very delicate ornamentation of the repeat, and the pleasant variety was really the name of the game of the Baroque dance suite. I'm going to skip the aria so that you can hear the minuet. Minuet was an incredibly popular court dance. What we always have to remember as performers is that the minuet choreography unfolds over 2 bars. So keeping it light, is really extremely important. Let's just hear the minuet. Okay, I want want to make sure we don't run out of time to speak of all the other yummy things, but just a couple of seconds of the gigue. It actually, the genre of the gigue comes from the English jig. So it's usually very lively, kind of the dance very fast. And it actually never really was a part of the court routine, but it became actually popular as a part of the dance suite for the keyboard. And so on. I will be glad to share these links with you if you'd like to listen to some more. So after this dance suite, from what I understand from the printed program, Rachel is going to move straight to the music of Johannes Brahms. So she's going from 1722 to the 1860s. So quite a leap, but she is actually going to stay with a dance form, except by now we are dealing with the waltz. So Brahms composed these 16 waltzes, which are said to be always performed together, although there are many performances of particularly one of the waltzes, which I'm sure you will all recognize. Brahms dedicated these to a music critic, Eduard Hanslick, and he actually wrote them in 3 versions. One for 4 hands, so 2 pianists sitting at 1 piano, and then 2 versions for piano solo, kind of an easy and a more difficult one. He wasn't really expecting such success, but they both became very popular, which really, I believe, is a testament to the popularity of amateur music making at the time. You know, it was the middle class after the French Revolution really blossomed, and every self-respecting family had a piano and a child who was learning to play the instrument. So I think that largely contributes to the popularity of these dances. Brahms was living in Vienna he was staying in Vienna, I should say, but he made it his permanent home a few years later in the 1870s. And of course, the talk of the town in Vienna was, of course, the waltz, the Viennese waltz. And so by then it was, incredibly popular and really accepted in the society. But I want to read you a description by an aristocrat of the waltz a few decades earlier, when waltz was really just kind of making its way from the peasantry into the aristocratic salons. So here is what this aristocrat has to say. But when he put his arm around her, pressed her to his breast, cavorted with her in the shameless, indecent whirling dance of the Germans, and engaged in a familiarity that broke all the bounds of good breeding, then my silent misery turned into burning rage. So this is the waltz for you. Let's hear it as beautifully performed here by Turkish pianist İdil Biret. We're going to just hear the opening, and let me share my screen. Voila. And so here, so the waltz, of course, is always going to be written in a triple meter. So the steps are also designed to be, so 3 for 3 beats. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now, when Brahms being Brahms, he really squeezed all those juices out of the tonal system and of all the rhythmic possibilities that one could possibly come up with. So here in this second half of the dance, and each dance again is going to have the same form as in Bach's dance suite, so A, B, B, binary form. Here, Brahms is literally twirling, the dizzying, with the dizzying character in these measures that almost obliterated the triple meter. Instead, you get this beautiful twirl. And the repeat. So here Brahms, the same way Bach was playing with his courante and changing the perception of the rhythm and of the meter, here Brahms is doing something really quite similar. And, when you listen to the transitions between the dances, I couldn't help of thinking of a really good DJ at a party who, makes sure that the dances flow smoothly one into another. I'm sure like if you had been to a wedding or with a good DJ, the music kind of flows uninterruptedly, right, with the same beat, and this is what Brahms is also doing with his key structure here. One dance sort of flows into the other. Second one. Yeah, so you see, even though it is already very different, much more lyrical in character, it starts with the same note in which Brahms ended the previous one. A couple of highlights here. I don't know if many of you are familiar with Brahms's Ballades, Opus 10, so a much earlier work. This waltz here, number 7, sounds just a little bit like those ballades. Let's listen to a moment of it. And again, we repeat the A section. So it's a really lovely way to get familiar with all these dance movements, where you get to hear the material again every single time. So I'm sure that when you come home after Rachel's recital, you're going to end up humming some of these tunes. They're going to stay in your head. Number 10 actually sounds like a piece that Rachel will play a little bit later, a piece by Robert Schumann called Papillon. Let's just listen to it. If you just sort of remember this kind of rising quick notes only to fall in a more slow manner, this is something that will reappear. And, what does Brahms have to do with Robert Schumann? Actually, turns out a lot. I don't know how many of you are familiar, but there's a lot of gossip in that department. So Brahms and the Schumanns, meaning Robert Schumann and his wife Clara, who is also a fabulous pianist and composer and a mother of 8, were very friendly with Brahms. Brahms was a young man when Schumann, who founded a music publication, was very kind to take him under his wing. He was really blown over by the beauty of Brahms's music, and so they kind of became friends. This is 1853. Only a few months after they became close, Robert Schumann suffered a nervous breakdown. And we will talk a little bit more about his mental health because it has a lot to do with the way he composed. So Schumann actually climbed a bridge and threw himself into the river Rhine. He was rescued and dragged ashore, but then he was immediately committed to a mental institution. He was never actually released. So he died there 2 years later. And Clara, as his wife, was not allowed to visit because it was decided that Robert would become too agitated by seeing her. So, in fact, it was only Brahms who could visit Robert at the hospital. and bring news of Robert to Clara. 2 years later, Robert Schumann dies, and Brahms and Clara Schumann become even closer. And so there is this forever wondering on the part of people who have read their letters. Was there tenderness anything more than a friendship? Was this anything more than a kind of amazing professional union that they enjoyed? Brahms always sent his manuscripts to Clara, hoping for her acceptance, and she was not shy about letting him know what she thought of his compositions, and he always diligently corrected what she thought was appropriate to correct. She wrote in a letter to her children later about Brahms. He came like a true friend. This is during the time when the family was in crisis because of Robert's hospitalization. He came like a true friend to share all my sorrow. He strengthened the heart that threatened to break. He uplifted my mind. He cheered my spirits whenever and wherever he could. In short, he was my friend in the fullest sense of the word. So there is this very strong connection to the music of Schumann. Before we get to that, I know that Rachel will play more Bach, and I will just go very, very quickly over the details. So you're going to hear a partita that Bach writes in 1726, so 4 years after the French suite. And you will definitely find these familiar movements: allemande, courante, sarabande, and the gigue. I want to just maybe share with you a portion of the sarabande, which again is just one of those pieces that stay with you forever. It's a beautiful recording here by a Chinese pianist, Yuan Shang. He was a student of Rosalind Turek, a famous Bach interpreter. In fact, Milana, you guys have a Rosalind Turek piano, don't you? The one that I played on a few years ago.
Yes, it's in Mooring's chapel.
Yeah, that's right. It just came to me. Yes. So there are all these connections. It's wonderful. So let's listen to this very luscious, sensuous sarabande. This sarabande is so vocal in character. You can imagine just really lyrical singing and just so much expression in this piece. I personally love to actually play it even as an encore. Even if I don't get to play the entire partita, I always try to find an excuse to share this sarabande with the world. It's just so gorgeous. The gigue in this partita is really quite insane. I think that's a moment where you definitely want to watch Rachel's hands, because she will be going like this the whole time. So let's just listen to it. The left hand is traveling, constantly crossing over the right in this really mad chase. So you can only imagine what this piece would sound like on the harpsichord. It almost sounds like a beehive because of the plucky nature of the harpsichord. It's really quite lively. So that's definitely something to look forward to. Then you'll have the intermission, and to finish, to kind of conclude the recital. Well, we're far from the conclusion because you're going to hear two tremendous cycles by Robert Schumann. It's really quite a program, I have to say. You know, Rachel this is going to be a workout for her, and I think for you too, as the audience. And I'm so glad that we're here, sort of preparing for this experience. So the first piece you're going to hear is the Papillon, which is French for butterflies. Both cycles have to do with carnival and masked balls and all kinds of characters that sort of wind through the ball, and having to do with the carnival, which is the time in which we are currently until Lent, right, and in the Christian calendar. So Schumann is 21 years old when he writes this. He, aside from being a very talented pianist and composer, he's also a really literary man. I should probably mention how he ruined his piano career. Did you know about this contraption that he designed for his fourth finger? Do you know, if you try to do this with a fourth finger, it doesn't move, right? It's always connected with the joints are connected with the third finger, right? I think that's why we wear our wedding bands on the fourth finger, because it represents this dependency, right? And kind of togetherness. So, right, it's very hard to do this. You know, Pinky can do this and so on, but the fourth finger, not really. So there is Robert Schumann trying to make his fourth finger more independent because he thought it would help his piano technique. And he came up with this ridiculous contraption that he locked his finger in. And of course, he ruined his hand forever. And so because of that, he had no choice but to simply become a full-time composer, right? Thank goodness to us for us, for that, because thanks to this we have so much of his brilliant music. But so, as I said, he was kind of really also interested in literature, and in this cycle, he is inspired by a book by Jean-Paul Richter, Flegeljahre, which is the awkward age. I suppose 21 is still a very awkward age. And so you're going to hear a succession of these very fun waltzes and polkas and marches and polonaises that kind of wind through the piece. I want to share with you the interpretation by a French Cypriot pianist by the name of Cyprien Katsaris. It has a really nice kind of vintage vibe to it. Let's see, where is that link? There it is. Give me 1 second, I'm sorry. I'm going to paste it in my search engine and share the screen. So you're going to hear this short introduction, and then we move to the first waltz and listen for this melody that will be present, that you already heard in the Brahms waltz, and that melody will be also present in the carnival later on. So that was the first waltz. And then, like I said, a variety of dances like polkas, polonaises, marches will follow. So I think that a very good exercise for you, especially for those who were with me during our enjoyment of music lectures, you can look at the various meters. You know, are we counting in 3 here? Is this a waltz? Is this a march? Are we counting in 2? What is the character of the piece? Because there are really, it's like a kaleidoscope of dance movements. You're going to hear so many of them. And so I think that being conscious of when the next one comes and how it is different is going to be a really fun activity. Now, this is the very last movement of the Papillon, featuring what is called the Großvatertanz, the grandfather waltz. And it is a melody that was written in the 17th century. It can be classified as a folk tune, but it became a very popular piece in Germany, and it was always played at the end of the wedding or some sort of celebration. So let's listen. This is a different pianist, Mieczysław Horszowski, playing this grandfather waltz. And that's something that I also want you to sort of keep in your ear, because Schumann will reuse it in his carnival later on. And now listen very closely, because the Papillon, the butterfly original theme, is coming up. And now the left hand is doing the grandfather waltz, while the right hand is doing the butterflies. It's quite nice. Now the piece comes to a really quiet end, sort of evoking the end of the ball. The clock strikes midnight and everybody goes home. Here's the clock. So Mieczysław Horszowski, by the way, I think at 101 was still performing at Carnegie Hall. It's really a privilege to watch him perform. Thank goodness for YouTube. Okay, I have about 5 minutes to tell you about one of the most gigantic cycles of Robert Schumann's, and that is the Carnival, Opus 9. So this is a cycle of 21 short pieces there. And again, you're going to hear all kinds of waltzes and polkas, but they're quite different from the Papillon. Schumann, being the literary man that he was, includes a little puzzle in every single piece. And he has these pitches like, A, E flat, C, B, la, da, da, da, for example, and then another series of tunes, la, do, si, and so on, that live inside each piece secretly and kind of send these secret message or depict the characters. Actually, two of Robert Schumann's girlfriends are in there depicted. So his former fiancée, Ernestina von Fricken, and then his current wife, Clara Schumann. They're both there in the same cycle. Let me show you a very beautiful recording by no other than Sergei Rachmaninov. The things you find on YouTube these days. I only wish I had that when I was a student. So you're going to hear a very lively introduction, and then we move to the first dance. You have these kind of fanfares of the beginning, the ball is about to start. By the way, I'm sure you realize this is a historic recording, so you're hearing a lot of kind of deep frying sound on there, because that's how old this recording is. But here, the first character that Schumann is depicting is Piero, and so he is the clown from the Italian Commedia dell'arte. So just imagine this clown, wearing his white PJs with big black buttons, kind of tripping over the stage the whole time. Let's just take us in this. So you have this lyrical melody on top of which you hear this kind of falling the entire time, kind of graceless falling. I'm skipping to the fifth movement called Eusebius. By today's standard, Robert Schumann would have been diagnosed with a bipolar disorder. And Eusebius and Florestan are these two states of mind, his two kind of personalities that lived inside his head. Eusebius was the calm and deliberate side of the composer, and then he's always followed by Florestan, who is the fiery, impetuous, revolutionary romantic. So let's listen to his calm side here. So this is Eusebius, and now comes his manic side, Florestan. Passionate. What you just heard, ya ba ba ba ba ba ba, is a direct quote from the Papillon, which you will have heard before. Back to and Papillon again. So Schumann had these spells where he was truly manic, and he would write letters to his wife Clara saying, I'm thinking so fast that I can't even write fast enough. My thoughts are always so much ahead of me. So, and as you see in this movement, he also changes the subject all the time. So it's almost schizophrenic what is happening. And so I think that being able to understand his state of mind is really important in kind of the deepened enjoyment of his music. Very quickly, because I know I'm running out of time. So you're going to hear Chiarina, which is a depiction of Clara Schumann. Let's see how he sees her through his music. So he's a very passionate Chiarina. Now comes the actual visit from Frédéric Chopin. And so this is interesting. This is Schumann basically depicting Chopin's own writing. So you can, if you have a Chopin nocturne in your memory, compare it in your memory with this. So you can tell that Schumann really revered the music of Chopin, his lyricism, his gorgeous melodies. And you may remember that famous quote that Schumann included in with which he started his article about Chopin's Opus 2. He said of the composer, who was very young at the time, hats off, gentlemen, a genius. So we know that Chopin wasn't too crazy about Schumann, but Schumann was for sure a groupie of Chopin's. And skipping to the last piece of this cycle, this is a really interesting one. The March of the Davidsbündler against the Philistines. So this is, first of all, it's going to be a march in triple meter. That's rather unusual. Don't you usually march 1, 2, left, right? So this is already something strange. And then later on in this movement, you will actually hear quotations from that grandfather waltz that you will have heard before. And that grandfather waltz is representing the Philistines. So the people who are hostile to art, culture, and the life of the mind, and instead are just focused on consumption and material goods. So he is making a huge statement here, sort of trying to fight back those Philistines, and he is depicting them with that grandfather waltz. I think I may not have cued it properly, but you're going to hear it bum bum bum bum bum bum bum bum bum. So it's really good to try to remember some of the tunes from the previous piece, the Papillon, in order to really see how the Philistines are being fought in this last movement. And the piece leads to this raucous conclusion, very much unlike the quiet conclusion of the Papillon. that on that very high note, the recital will come to its conclusion. And I think it really sets the mood for not only our chat today, but the whole recital and hopefully the whole year, where we are truly the Buns of David, the Davidsbundler, fighting the Philistines, fighting anything that has to do with the earthly rather than the spiritual enlightenment. And I think that you being here is a wonderful testament to that. So thank you for listening, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Magdalena. So I will actually open it up to you, our dear friends, the audience. And if you have any questions or you would like to make comments, you're welcome to do that. We have a few minutes, so we'll be happy to answer that. Mason, so good to see you.
Hi, Mason.
One of our young pianists who did a masterclass a few years ago online with Magdalena. So remember that.
That's right. We did Zoom master classes before it was even cool, right, Mason?
Yeah, I enjoyed it all.
So Mason, I also saw your message. You were asking for the link to the harpsichord version, and I'm enclosing it right here for everyone.
It actually would be great if you can send me all the links, and then I can post it on YouTube also and share it with everybody so that they can
That's a good idea.
Listen to the whole pieces and kind of get in the mood for the upcoming recitals. So
definitely, yes. But Rachel is such a wonderful and is very intelligent musician, and is so energetic and so charismatic, right? Actually, Milana, I think we all saw each other in the same location right before the lockdown at the Chopin competition in Miami.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was the last time I saw all of you in one place. There's a beautiful competition in Miami, Chopin competition. It's a national competition. Some of the best American young pianists are participating in that. And it was a staggering prize, I remember. It was something like $100,000, right? It was the first prize.
Yes. No competition in the world offers this kind of prize money. Yeah.
It's incredible. But yeah, you were there, and Rachel was there. You were I think on, I don't remember exactly, emceeing probably.
Yes, I was emceeing the finals and the award ceremony, and Rachel was doing the entire webcast, so she had a very big job. Yeah.
Awesome. So, and I want to take an opportunity. We will have, after our first concert on the 9th of January, we are going out for dinner, and all of you are welcome to join us. We'll go to Dorona. Information is online. You can still sign up. Today is the last day to sign up, so if you haven't yet. And Rachel will be there, and Luca Fazioli, who is her husband, and also the son of Paolo Fazioli. All of you know the Fazioli pianos because we have them here in Naples. We are very fortunate to have them. So Luca is going to be with us, so you'll get a chance to say hello to him as well. So please sign up for that. I do also want to invite you, one more time, want to acknowledge Bella. I see you're there, and Bella is the artistic director of Camerata of Naples. And Rachel is joining Camerata of Naples on Sunday, on the 15th of January. The concert is at 4 p.m. at the Mornings Presbyterian Church, and she'll play Bach concerto. So it's going to be a very busy week. I know you have many choices, but I hope you'll choose to join us at least once, or hopefully twice. So anybody has questions? Okay, Michael, you have a question.
How were the dance moves recorded?
Oh, that's a really great question. That's actually a huge conversation. Let me see if I can very quickly Google Baroque dance choreography notation. It's really kind of insane, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to find the image quickly enough. There were images for little drawings for the right foot and left foot. Let me just see, Baroque dance steps chart. Okay, let me see if I can find that. It keeps coming, something different keeps coming up. But there were basically Yes, little charts that show the right foot and the left foot, and there were little squiggles that each meant something, either a leap or a turn or a slide, like as in a saraban. It was a very kind of again a sensuous kind of a slide. The arms were not notated. It was really up to the good taste of the dancer, and of course the dance masters would make sure that the arms movements are appropriate. So yes, I don't know, have you ever seen like a Twister, for example, the game of Twister, where you have these little signs on the mat? It was sort of a mini version of that. And so you had to decipher it, practice it, memorize it in order to deliver it later at the ball.
We actually have a dancer with us, Alicia.
Oh,
She's I don't know if Alicia, you want to comment on anything or add something. You're welcome to.
I just want to say thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. It was wonderful and fascinating to hear your insights into the connection between the dance and the music that was happening on, and to enrich our understanding of both.
wonderful. It's such a pleasure, really. Thank you for spending the hour with me today. And I think that
Absolutely a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah. Susan, you have a question. I see.
It's a question from Alana. We're going to do this every time before a concert. You're really ruining us. You're spoiling us now. I want this hour before every lecture. It makes such a big difference.
Susan, we have been doing it. You just haven't been joining us.
You're
That's
right.
right. You've had
I've
Mark
been missing
Travis.
them. No more. I won't miss any more.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I think we'll have a great time. I'm looking forward to seeing whoever can join us. And if you have any questions, you're welcome to shoot me an email, and or Magdalena, I'll pass on your questions. And enjoy the beginning of a great year, right? It's going to be a great one.
We're ready for a great year, definitely. So enjoy the recital. I wish I could be there in the flesh, but I will be thinking of all of you, and hopefully until very soon.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you all soon. Thank you, Magdalena.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Magdalena. Thank you, Milana.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.